my mic. Good morning, everyone. Shelton Planning and Zoning Commission will hold a special meeting at 10 a.m. on Wednesday, June 17th, 2020, at the Shelton City Hall Auditorium, 54 Hill Street, Shelton, Connecticut. And that meeting is hereby called to order. This meeting is categorized as a special meeting. It's being held at a time other than when our regular meeting was to take place. Would everyone present in the auditorium please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? And I invite all who are participating remotely to do the same. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic that stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. A couple of points before continuing with this morning's agenda. This is the Planning and Zoning Commission's 7th meeting being done via a live streaming process. Commissioners participating in person and remotely will be able to make comments throughout the meeting, so that we're not all talking across each other and our recording secretaries are clear as to who is speaking. Commissioners are asked to please say Madam Chair and then your name. As soon as the chair recognizes you, you are free to speak. Please be aware that you may hear an echo. Commissioners participating remotely are asked to be aware and remember that microphones on computers will pick up ambient sound, which will be heard in the auditorium throughout the PA system, including movement of papers, phones ringing, and conversations with others that are in the room. So if at all possible, and you have the ability to do so, please mute the audio on the computer. We will continue with our agenda, beginning with our roll call. When your name is called, please verbally indicate that you are present. And I'll begin with those who are participating remotely. Commissioner Parkins? Present. Commissioner Ticky?
Present.
Commissioner Radomski? Alternate Commissioner Laskos?
Present.
Alternate Commissioner Usel? Our commission consultant, Mr. Anthony Panico?
Present.
And I'll continue on with those here in the auditorium. Commissioner Kelly?
Present.
Commissioner Motto? Myself, Commissioner Harger. Our Planning and Zoning Administrator, Mr. Rossetti.
Here.
Our Assistant Administrator and CEO, Mr. O'Neill. Our Downtown Projects Coordinator, Mr. Nappy. He stepped out for a minute. Okay, our Recording Secretary, Sarah Granazos. Present. And our stenographer, Stephanie Charbonneau. Present. And I'll just ask one more time. Is Commissioner Radomski participating remotely? And how about alternate Commissioner Usel? Okay. Our two agenda items today are continuation of public hearings. Before we proceed with each, I'd like to remind those present and those watching from a remote location where we are in the protocol that we will be following public hearings, which was reviewed by Corporation Counsel, who indicated to me that it is compliant with the executive orders issued by the governor and fair for those attending in person or watching from a remote location. And for the record, I'd just like to acknowledge that Mr. Nappy is present here at the meeting. First of all, the public hearing for application 20-11 USS Solar opened on June 4th, and the public hearing for application 20-07 Yankees Landing opened on May 20th. On those days, after opening each public hearing, each applicant made a presentation. At each public hearing, Planning and Zoning Commission members had the opportunity to ask questions during and after the applicant's presentation. Each applicant had the opportunity to answer at that time or to wait until the continuation of the public hearing. At each of those public hearings, after each applicant completed his presentation and answered questions from the Commission, members of the public who were present in the auditorium who wish to address the commission on the item being discussed were given the opportunity to do so. At each public hearing, at the end of the public portion, the commission moved to keep each public hearing open. After the adjournment of each public hearing, and until 24 hours prior to today's resumption of each public hearing, members of the public have the ability to submit questions and comments to the Planning and Zoning Office via email, postal mail, or in person directly to the Planning and Zoning Office. And those particular comments would be ones that would be eventually posted on our city's website and available for everyone to review. After the commencement of each public hearing today, any comments submitted from the public within the time frame for submission will be acknowledged for the record. Chair will then recognize anyone from the public who further wishes to address the commission on the application being heard that are present today in the auditorium. Those from the public who are attending today who choose to address the commission are reminded of the following. All comments or questions are to be directed to the chair only, not to the applicant and or any associates. No dialogue is permitted between the public and the applicant or any of the applicant's associates. All comments from the public should address the criteria of the zoning regulations. Unless a member of the public has new comments or questions of the chair, members of the public are asked to briefly indicate whether or not they're in agreement with the previous speaker and not repeat same testimony verbatim when it is their turn. At the conclusion of any comments from the public, the applicant will have the opportunity to address any comments or questions from the public and the commission. After the applicant and or his associates have concluded their presentations, they've answered all questions and they've addressed all concerns from the commission and or public. And if the commission feels further information is needed, the chair will ask for a motion to keep the public hearing open. If no further information is needed by the commission, the chair will ask for a motion to close the public hearing. At a future meeting of the commission, after each public hearing has closed, the commission will discuss the specific application, and the chair will hold the commission for a consensus on how to proceed. And a reminder to the commission that once the public hearing has opened and until it is closed, commissioners are not permitted to make any public comment, discuss any part of the applicant's presentation, or receive additional information from anyone. So we will begin with continuation of the public hearing for application number 20-11, USS Solar, Shelton Solar LLC, 866 River Road, Assessors Map 5, Lot 2, applying for a special exception permit in the CA2 zone on 5.9 acres to construct, own, and operate a 975 kilowatt solar project. The initial development plans, area titled USS Solar, Shelton Landfill, and are dated January 14th, 2020. Mr. Rossetti, were any comments received from the public after the opening of the public hearing for this application on June 4th?
No.
Okay. Now, are there any members of the public present that would like to present comments to the commission on this particular application? If you would like to do so, you need to sign the list on the cart.
No one.
All right, there's no one that has signed up to address the commission. I'll ask again, are there any members of the audience that wish to address the commission on this particular application?
One thing.
Okay, finally, the last call for anyone from the commission who would like to, anyone from the audience that would like to address the commission on this particular application for USS Solar, Shelton Solar. Okay. All right, according to my notes in the June 4th minutes, this is what I took away from the first portion of the public hearing. And I'll ask my fellow commissioners for any particular comments that they may have, that they'd like to add. First of all, the applicant is pursuing various permits, including those from inland wetlands and those needed for the coastal zone. This project is part of DEEP's Shared Energy Program and needs DEEP approval. The 970 kilowatt generated would be enough to power between 200 and 225 homes. Shelton Public School District and the Shelton Sports Center have expressed interest with becoming subscribers of USS Shelton Solar, LLC. Residents, businesses, and public entities in and around the city of Shelton who are United Illuminating customers may subscribe for a certain number of years for a portion of the electricity generated and would receive credits on their UI bills. This particular project encompasses almost 6 acres on the top and southern slope of the Shelton landfill on River Road. The economic benefit for the city would be approximately $4,000 to $5,600 in annual tax revenue. The Connecticut Siting Council did not need to review this proposal, as the electricity generated would be less than 1 megawatt, and the project size was not designed to purposely avoid Siting Council review. The lease for the use of the property would be 35 years. There's a 10-year warranty on inverters. No insurance claims on previous installations have been submitted, or claims of damaging effects to the environment and wildlife. Confirmation that the protective membrane would not be penetrated and the wells and methane system would not be affected, and how each would be remedied if affected, need to be submitted. There is no other landfill type of installation anywhere else in Connecticut. Discussions with the city fire marshal, city engineer, and building officials need to be confirmed and building permits obtained if the project is approved. The process for removal of equipment in the future needs to be confirmed. The applicant indicated the solar panels and main components are recyclable. The future use plan for the landfill needs to be discussed with DEEP. A proposal for the potential decommission and removal of any equipment needs to be submitted. A firm construction schedule and a determination of when the program would be operational needs to be submitted. More information about a maintenance plan for the equipment needs to be submitted. And a determination of what type of fire suppression system would be needed, installed, and used needs to be submitted. So before we receive any additional comments from the applicant, does any commissioner have any other points they'd like to add to this particular list? Commissioner Morrow, go ahead and use your...
I just want to see the mask police again, just to remind everybody in the audience, where the mask needs to cover both your nose and your mouth, please.
Is everybody in compliance? Okay. So, is there any commissioner that needs to, would like to, add to this particular, my list of comments? Anybody remotely? Okay. All right, so does the applicant have any additional information they'd like to submit?
Yeah, you turn them on and probably bring it up.
Get really close. Stay close to the mic because we are having trouble with people listening in later on.
Okay, sorry, I'll squat down a little bit for you.
Yep.
Madam Chair, Commissioners, my name's Peter. I'm from USS Shelton Solar, US Solar is the parent company. Thanks for having me back again. I did want to bring up a couple of the answers to the topics discussed. Since our last meeting, I did get in touch with the fire chief's office. They're very much on board with our plan as long as we provide and see access to the gate.
I just want to clarify, you've spoken to the fire marshal.
Correct.
All right, fire chief is
Yes.
a different gentleman
My
altogether.
apologies.
Okay.
My apologies. So the only concern was having access via VSC, which is not going to be a problem since we are, again, utilizing the same key system that is already in place on a site and they already have access to, but we're coordinating on that front. That was the only main concern. As, again, this is not a particular fire risk, different from anything else, so it wasn't, there were no concerns for us when presented with the plan or the layout at this side of things, I know last time we talked about the recyclability of the modules themselves, but the process is actually quite a bit easier, on a landfill site than it is even on a greenfield site because we're utilizing, cement ballast block. So those are all sitting above ground, it's much easier removal than, for example, in a traditional farm field where we're using, extrusion posts, those are a lot harder to pull out than a cement block, for example.
That terminology that you use was cement block?
Yeah, so it's called a ballast block.
Okay.
So essentially, you pour a cement foot, and then you have a metal wrapping in place within that piece of cement, and then there's a panel flat on top of that. So, again, a pretty basic construction, which makes it a lot easier to remove. Again, as part of, the challenges and opportunities of a landfill, we're not looking to penetrate the ground at all because of the underlying, materials. One thing I did want to note from the notes you read, there is no membrane on this particular site. This is not a membrane cap landfill. This is, there's roughly 2 to 3 feet of ash and soil, which luckily TRC, who's also here with me today, can speak to more if you'd like, but, again, this is a different style of landfill that you might see elsewhere in the state where that membrane would be in place. On the construction schedule side of things, we did address this a little bit last time. We were looking to break ground on this site in September, and have it fully operational by the end of the year this year. It's a pretty aggressive schedule, but in, coordinating both with our construction partner and with the Connecticut DEP, we're confident we can still make this schedule happen. We're actively ordering our transformer and modules now, and kind of just, those are items. So, were we to have any hurdles from this process, for example, we could still repurpose those items elsewhere, but, given their long lead time, we need to kind of make a move on that earlier. But I'm happy to submit these pieces in writing to your office as addition of a building permit, but, I wanted to at least be able to address those here in this hearing. So we covered kind of the decom process already, the membrane process, sorry, just taking all my notes. There was also a question of deep approvals for this, and one piece I wanted to emphasize is that the DEEP is this huge organization, right? There's many different arms of that organization. So we already have approval from Deep Energy, so they've already given us a revenue contract for this project. The part that we're still working on is on the environment side of things, which is where they're doing their post-closure permitting, and that process is what TRC is working heavily with us on. And luckily, TRC is a pretty unique position in that they are both working with us as the engineer of record, but also serve as Deep's subcontractor currently for the management of that site, so they very intimately know this site. They're working on a lot of the line identification and maintenance work that's pretty ongoing on that site. So again, it's a really good partnership in terms of historical knowledge of the site as well as good relationships with the DEP. So just wanted to point out that the difference between kind of the revenue electric contract side of things and the environment side of things. I know that the environment side of things is also, I think, a great point to address Mr. Anglis's comments from last time, where I know there was a concern about it, being safe. I know there's a history with this particular site and how it's related to the community, and Deep's environmental permitting process with their post-closure process is kind of that safety check that's involved in making sure that everything we're constructing is up to snuff and isn't going to impact that site anyway. So we do want to make sure there are multiple layers of safety checks in this process getting towards construction. So the only other piece I wanted to briefly touch on is I know the future use plan has come up a little bit here, and I know this is also, again, a long-standing issue stemming back from roughly 2001. Oddly enough, TRC worked on the future use plan back at that time as well. So again, we aren't impacting the future use plan in that we're taking up a very minimal amount of acreage, but also I understand that future use plan is kind of an ongoing conversation between the city and MIRA or DEEP. So, though we're happy to participate in those conversations, our application is somewhat outside of that process in terms of, we're not inhibiting it. We're simply applying for the special exception permit, which would be kind of outside of the future use plan process. So, we're happy to talk about the history of that a little bit more if you'd like, but, again, we're a small amount of acreage on the overall parcel, and any future use plan would still be able to work, quite in harmony with what we're doing. So, happy to answer any remaining questions, but I think those were the main points that you wanted me to address. If you have anything else you'd like me to discuss at this time, I'm certainly happy to do so.
Okay, thank you, Peter. Is there any commissioner that has any questions? Aniko?
No, sir.
No, I don't, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Horton.
Just a comment that Mr. Anglis did express some concern and wanted something in writing that you would not interfere with the future use plan as it is now documented.
Sure, we'd be happy to submit that as a condition of building permit.
Mr. Rossetti, do you have any comments?
Not at this time, thank you.
Mr. O'Neill, are you good? Okay. All right, if no one else on the commission has any comments, questions, or concerns about application 20-11, is there a motion to close the public hearing?
Make a motion to close it.
There's a motion to close public hearing from Commissioner Kelly. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Commissioner Moto. So we'll do a roll call vote on the motion to close public hearing. That was made by Commissioner Kelly and seconded by Commissioner Moto. Commissioner Kelly?
Aye.
Commissioner Moto? Commissioner Ticky?
Aye.
Commissioner Parkins?
Aye.
Okay, and the chair votes aye. Commissioner Laskos, are you present?
Yes.
Okay, you're there. All right. From this, yes, you have, you acknowledged that you were there at the beginning. You will be sitting in for Commissioner Radowski. Are you, do you feel qualified to, vote on this particular application, to close the
Yep.
public hearing?
Yes.
Okay, and your vote to close the public hearing?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. All right, so a discussion about this particular application will be held at an upcoming Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, and the chair will ask the commission for consensus on how to proceed at that time. Thank you.
Madam Chair, may I ask just a process clarification question?
Yeah.
For that future meeting, would you like me to attend in person, or is there an opportunity to speak, or is that an internal discussion that I should?
It's a discussion that will take place here in the auditorium. You can sit in, but we cannot, now that we've closed the public hearing, take any further comments. Be only directly to the commission. However, if staff has a question, you can communicate back and forth to each other.
I'll coordinate that with Alex if he wants me to call in, or how.
Yeah, that'd be fine.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, our next, agenda item is continuation of a public hearing for application 20-07, Blank Yankees Landing LLC. And Dominic Thomas, 1055 Bridgeport Avenue, Assessors Map 2, Lot 8, petition for a planned development district zone change on a site of 1.73 acres with frontage on Huntington Street as well as Bridgeport Avenue. Proposal is for a commercial and mixed-use site, including retail gasoline sales, convenience store, 2 retail office buildings, and on-site parking. The initial development plans by Ellen B. Shepherd, P.E., dated January 29th, 2020. Okay, before we proceed with the hearing from the public, the chair would like to note for the record, additional documents were posted to the city's website for this application since our last meeting, and we had page 7-5 of the 2004 Connecticut Stormwater Quality Manual with several lines highlighted in the rationale paragraph. We also had a truck turning radius plan, a map created by the Greater Bridgeport Regional Council showing the watershed for Beaver Day Glam in Stratford, and a map created by the Connecticut Department of Transportation showing the drainage of Beaver Day Glam in Stratford. We also had a March 19, 2020 letter that I came across in my materials. I did not see it posted on the website, and, wanted to, find out from Mr. Rossetti, do you recognize that? I don't know if that was stapled to something.
Yeah, man, set our staple on it.
Yes. It was received, so I'll ask the, make sure that this gets,
Okay, yeah.
uploaded to our website. And, the Connecticut Metropolitan Council of Governments needs to, weigh in on applications that are within so many feet of a, city boundary. And they concluded that this development and zoning map change is not regionally significant. So, Mr. Rossetti, were any comments received from the public after the opening of the public hearing for this application on May 20th?
We have received a number of, letters and correspondence from neighbors, the Audubon Society, and an engineer, all predominantly from the Beaver Dam Association. We have received these letters over the weekend, Monday and Tuesday of this week. We have not had time to upload them onto the website. They will be a part of the record. I will ask the secretary, Commissioner Motto, to read the names of the persons that we have received correspondence from. Your letters will be posted online so that the applicant, anyone wishing to read those comments may. Anyone in the future who would like to submit, comments to the Planning and Zoning Office may do so. You can email them again to Alexandria Castro. Her name, again, is Alexandria Castro. Her email is a.castro@cityofshelton.org. That's alpha.charlie-alpha-Sam-Tango-Roger-Oscar@cityofshelton.org. So I'll turn it over to,
Okay, these letters are, all in opposition to this project. The major concerns cited are, threats to the water quality of Beaver Dam Lake and also concerns for a bald eagle, nesting site in that area. The names of these letters are, Carl Asimovic, consulting engineer, Patrick M. Anino, Commons, I think, Connecticut Audubon Society, and the rest are neighbors of, in the Dam area. Maureen Cinto, Susan Nassi, Regina and Jack Christino, David Spencer, Stephen and Christiana Pasteur, Andrea and Warren Spencer, Mike and Joanne Pavia, Stephen Brennan, Maury Fox, Lawrence Parnoff, Ray and Sandra Rutkowski, Paula and David Ridge, Alex and Roberta Avery, rather, Chico Pleasantson, Mark Stuckman, and Sarah Stuckman. Thank you, Commissioner Motto. Are there any members of the public present who would like to present comments to the commission on this application before we go on?
I think I might be first on the list.
I'll be calling the name. Okay, the first person from the public in the auditorium that would like to address the commission is Jack Tristano. Mr. Tristano, you're invited to come to the podium and state your name and your address, please. And
Madam Chair and Commissioners, good morning. My name is Jack Tristano. I live at 197 Beaver Dam Access Road. Thank you for the opportunity to talk on this today. Probably not the best person to speak first because I think there are people in the audience who have more details and know more of the facts than I do, but I just wanted to say a few words. I am one of the people who sent in a letter, so I'm not going to repeat the things that are in that letter, but I wanted to briefly make 3 points regarding this proposal, around the nature of the business, around the harm to the environment, and around some other concerns. As far as the nature of the business, I think it's important for the commissioners to keep in mind that this is not an essential business in the area. It is not a business that's likely to bring in a lot of long-term good jobs for the community here, and it's not a business that's going to bring in services that we don't have. Obviously, we already have these services in many different locations. And so when you consider the environmental impact and the other concerns, I think it's important to strike the right balance between how important is this business for the community and weighing that against the potential harm that it is going to do to the community and the potential long-term effects of that harm. And that brings me to the second point, which is the environmental damage. I think it's uncontroversial to say that it is impossible to avoid spillage at a project like this with this many gasoline pumps. And so there can be no promise or no guarantee or no steps taken that will effectively remediate the toxins that will go into the water streams that run along this property. It will damage those water streams. Those toxins will then be carried down to Beaver Dam Lake. It will damage the lake, and it will be carried out of Beaver Dam Lake and through the streams that run through Stratford and damage those streams. Now, I think it's really important to keep in mind there were one or two comments about, concerns about Beaver Dam Lake in Stratford. And I think it's very important for the commissioners to keep in mind that this is not just a concern about Stratford, and it is not just a concern about that one small lake and the homes on that lake or the environment around that lake. The lake is next to Roosevelt Forest. As was mentioned, there is at least one pair of bald eagles that are currently living on the lake. There is a great deal of wildlife around the lake. There are turtles in the lake, there's fish in the lake, there are deer, fox, coyote. I've seen a bobcat 3 times now on our property. There's, again, a great deal of wildlife in the area that is benefiting from that lake and from these other streams that would be damaged by the toxins that this proposal and this proposed project would inevitably produce and release into the environment. And that's not just a Stratford issue, it's a Shelton issue too. It is wildlife that is in Shelton, and it's the environment that we all share between Stratford and Shelton in this area. And it may be, I heard mention of a report that there was no regional significance to this project, and maybe that's true on a statewide basis, but there is certainly regional significance to it for us here in both Shelton and Stratford. Again, I think it's just very important for the commissioners to not think that this is just a Stratford concern or a Stratford issue. And a project like this will cause, inevitably, harm to the environment that may be impossible to remediate in the long term. And again, it does so for limited economic benefit, and it is not something that is necessary for Shelton, for the community. It is not providing services that the community does not already have, and it is not likely to be providing any quality long-term employment for the members of this community, such that you might want to allow some damage to the environment because of some economic benefit on the other side. I don't think that is the case here. And finally, I just want to briefly say there are some other concerns too. It's not just environmental. As someone who lives in the area and goes to the businesses on Bridgeport Avenue and the restaurants there a great deal, and goes up the road the other way to Huntington Center, to the businesses and restaurants up there, I think we all know there's a lot of traffic on that road already. There's a lot of traffic in that intersection, and there are various turns. Right now, you've got good traffic lighting that helps control that flow. But it seems to me that a project of this size, and again, there may be, and probably are people who can speak to this with a little more detail and facts than I can, but a project of this size is inevitably going to exacerbate any traffic issues in that area as you have vehicles coming in and out of something like this. And there are already, I think, enough traffic concerns along Bridgeport Avenue, and right now at that end, you've got something that is working very well, and the traffic is flowing fairly well, and this can only disrupt that and lead to more concerns and potential safety issues. And so, if it hasn't been clear, just for the record, I oppose this project and hope that the commissioners will not see fit to actually change laws and protections that are in place for that property in order to allow something like this. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Next is, Mike Tavia.
Okay, so good morning to the commission and commissioners, and thank you to Jack for standing up and speaking eloquently about the, economic impacts or.
Mr. Tavia, would you identify your address, please, for the record?
Okay, good idea. My background and my name is Mike Pavia. My address is 400 Beaver Dam Road in Stratford, Connecticut. And just a little background, I've been at that address for 26 years. I've been coming to the Shelton Planning and Zoning for 25 years. I go back to John Cook and, some of your members in, monitoring the developments that Shelton has done northwest of our lake, i.e. within our watershed. And I'll get to the topic of the gas station very quickly, but I think you have to look at the totality of what has happened north of our lake. It went from 100% pristine woodlands and Sylvan Brook, which was 2 feet wide, to it has now been blacktopped and rooftopped 90%. So you have taken a 2-foot stream and created just an incredible flow when Trap Falls is flowing and we get rainwater. So that's my background. I've been around a long time, seen the many changes that have occurred upland. I feel as though the association, I just want to speak on the association's behalf, we would vehemently oppose this gas station and ask that the commissioners reject it out of hand. There's no need to look at any stormwater drainage or retention tanks. The preliminary drawing that I shared with our engineer didn't have any of that on it. It's just as well. We hope the commission rejects it prior to that point. It seems unimaginable that at this peak of topography that borders both Trumbull, Stratford, and Shelton, the idea that you have 20 cars filling at any one time, and I don't even know how much storage underground, just seems to me to fly in the face of conventional wisdom. I think the history of gas stations and groundwater leaks and surface leaks speak for themselves. I think we submitted some documentation to that effect. Again, since our engineer has reviewed the particular parcel, and apparently it's a divided watershed, but in either event, the water ends up in our watershed. It's not possible to create any systems or containment systems or safety systems that would prevent these petrochemicals and carcinogens from reaching our lake. Additionally, you're within 1,000 feet of Shelton residents' water wells. So people's drinking water will ultimately be affected by this. The bald eagles that nest at our lake should certainly be a consideration of the board. We have other wildlife, snow egrets, and certain type of egrets that I think the Audubon Society pointed out to. And so, in summation, I think that the usage for the property does not follow. It makes no sense. It's simply a threat to the people downstream of it, and I would hope that the commission doesn't allow it to go any further. And the other point I was trying to make to tie in my beginning with all the blacktop and rooftopping, any top water spills that occur on that property will be in our lake in a matter of minutes. So I'm sure the applicant's going to provide some type of, you know, containment measures and that sort of thing, but I would ask that the commission take a half an hour, go to the spot, go to where the lake comes from the new Stinto development. You'll see that there's trees, the water in there rushes so fast, it's out of control. So you will be able to assess very quickly that anything 200 feet up the road is just not possible to contain or mitigate. And just to pick up on Jack's thing, it's very interesting that it's a short-term gain, and like you said, there's no long-term jobs. So where the Beaver Dam in the past has, you know, tried to work with the commission, providing certain safeguards are met, we just think this is beyond the pale, and it's just not possible to work along with those sorts of things. And I would recommend that the commission, when they take this 15 minutes of view, please consider purchasing the property and turning it into a rain garden so that some of the water that falls in that watershed can be retained on the property rather than to continue to funnel it towards our lake. I see that Shelton has some greenway lakes that we're very proud of. You may be able to take this parcel and open it up as a rain garden and go in a different tack and proactively look to protect the watershed, the reservoir, and your residents, the residents of Stratford. And I would expect that the commission use this project this way. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tapia. Next is, the audience, please restrain from any comments or action. Next is, I believe it's Steve Pastor, P-A-S-T-O-R. Steve, is that the correct spelling?
P-A-S-T-I-R.
P-A-S-T-I, Pastor. Okay. Go ahead and identify yourself, please.
My name is Stephen Pastor. I own the property and reside at 925 Beaver Dam Road. And I'd like to speak to the commissioner, and to the rest of the zoning commission on behalf of the Beaver Dam Lake Association as its president, as well as an owner and operator of gasoline service stations. Beaver Dam Lake started its life more than 100 years ago as a primary drinking water reservoir for the town of Stratford. We catch all of the excess water that comes out of Trap Falls. It's actually an integral part of the Trap Falls network for spillway and excess water. We also stay on as a reserve reservoir in case of emergencies and things like that. This lake could be reactivated at any time. That being said, we are also a home to many endangered species, including bald eagles, which the Audubon Society has confirmed, as well as a variety of egrets. They eat from the water, the different variety of fish that we have, and we've been able to maintain a pristine environment there for more than 100 years, up to this current point. To the previous speaker, Mike Pavia's point about stormwater runoff, over the last 25 years with all the development of Bridgeport Avenue, we have been inundated with stormwater that's coming down, feeding directly into Beaver Dam Lake. We are a lake that has a dam. That being said, we can only take so much stormwater at some point. This is a lake that was designed more than 100 years ago before this was all developed. Sylvan Brook that enters Beaver Dam Lake is being currently inundated anytime we get any type of significant rain or snow melt. Now, to speak on behalf as a gasoline service station owner, for the last 25 years, I've spent owning and operating gasoline service stations. The fact is that despite everyone's best efforts in the industry and the technological improvements that we've seen over the last 30 years, accidents still happen. Major accidents underground, tank failures, supply lines. You know, as technology has improved, it's become much better, and those problems are much less frequent. But that's not the main concern. The main concern is what goes on in the parking lot all day long. And I can speak from experience, the despite our best efforts, accidents happen. There's accidents where vehicles drive through gas pumps, drive away with gas nozzles still in the vehicle, breakaways don't work, gasoline goes all over the ground, you have to clean it up, but it stains the pavement. Rainwater comes and it washes it away. It's inevitable. Every gas station in the world, if you go to during a rainstorm, you're gonna see some type of rainbow in the parking lot from spills. You have, hauler issues, where trucks come in, vehicles in the parking lot hit the equipment, and you have spills that occur that way. This is our concern, is that these spills mixed with groundwater or stormwater runoff will directly impact the water quality of our lake in the long term. Thank you.
I ask you where are your gas stations?
Trumbull. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, and the audience is asked to please restrain from any reaction, thank you. Is there anyone else from the audience that wishes to address this particular application? Again, is there anyone from the members of the audience that would wish to comment on this particular application? Oh, sure, okay. Just come on up and sign in, please.
It's a question more.
My name is William Padano. I own a property at 3260 Huntington Road, Stratford, and I live there. It's just a question. When names were mentioned about documents submitted, I did not hear my name called. William and Christine Padano.
Did you, send an email in or a
I sent
letter?
an email to A. Castro. I have a copy of it on my phone.
Okay, was it A. Castro or just A. Castro?
Say again.
A period
A.
Castro?
Castro.
Okay, I'll check our record again, but if you could resend it, maybe I missed it.
I'll resend it
Okay.
right now. Thank you. That's it.
I'm just checking.
Do you want to speak here?
No, it's going to be, put on the website. I'm just checking to make sure it's not already.
Oh, there's one up there.
Thank you. All right, this is Kim. Can Kim spell your last name?
Sure, it's N-A-C-I, Kim Najee.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
And I want to apologize if this has been mentioned already, but there is a gas station less than 3/4 away from the proposed gas station. So I feel like not only is it unnecessary, but it's a little aggressive to have such an enormous gas station so close. And we also have residential living, we have Marriott Resident Inn, very close, we have the elderly living sites, I think they're the Stay America. We are putting their lives in jeopardy with the fumes and the gas. And just, there's already so much land that we're trying to preserve there, having two gas stations, less than 3/4 apart, just seems excessive. And again, I apologize if this location of the gas station was already mentioned, but I just wanted to bring it back up to everyone's attention. That's all. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for comments. All right, last call. Anybody else in the auditorium from the public that would wish to address this particular application? All right, then we'll move on. According to my notes in the May 20th minutes, this is what I took away from my, from the first portion of public hearing, and after that, we'll move into comments from the applicant. The proposal is for a convenience store with 10 pumping stations, 2 retail office buildings, sidewalks to all buildings, and 45 parking spaces, 2 entrances, exits from Bridgeport Avenue, and 1 entrance exit to Huntington Street. Site is presently zoned R1, surrounded by 2 PDD. The current business occupant of the site plans to maintain a retail operation. The applicant's engineer is in agreement with comments contained in the city engineer's letter and will address all of the concerns of the city engineer. No trees are to be disturbed on Huntington Street. Based on counts and data presented in the applicant's traffic report, there would be 130 new vehicle trips in the morning and 138 new vehicle trips in the afternoon. Some adjustment to the traffic signal at the intersection of Bridgeport Avenue, Huntington Street, Huntington Road, and Shelton Road would be required. Bus stop locations and how to accommodate foot traffic would need to be addressed. And before we receive any additional comments from the applicant, does any commissioner here in the auditorium or participating remotely have any other points they'd like to add?
Madam Chair, this is Commissioner Parkins.
Go ahead, Commissioner Parkins.
I just have a clarification. When I was reading, and I would like this to be added to those notes, that when I was reading quickly through the minutes that were prepared, not yet approved, I recall Commissioner Ticky was inquiring about the bus stops and the foot traffic, and asked if they could look into, I thought it was look into putting a sidewalk there, but the minutes state that they could provide a walkway. So I just want clarification from the applicant whether it is something they are certain they can do or something that they're going to be looking into.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there anyone else from the commission have any comments? Okay. If there is none, Mr. Thomas, Attorney Thomas, do you want to go ahead and?
Yes, thank you. Procedurally, I do want to point out that I'm glad this is the first microphone that's at my height and somebody taller has it now. Get to it. I have to address the procedural aspects with respect to things being posted on the website and everything like that. I would note what we did. We were initially sent a comment from Maureen Magner, which I intend on addressing. I don't see it on the website. We were also sent an email from Michael McCoy. I don't see that on the website, but we were sent them. And Ms. Magner's I was going to address orally. Mr. McCoy's was addressed by our traffic engineer, Craig Yanis, and that was submitted, his response, which was, I believe, a 2-page or 1-page letter response, was submitted on Friday morning, and I understand that it's not your staff, it's the IT setup here, that it did not get on the website. We did, because I was aware, as a result of the comments that were attempted to be made at the last public hearing a week ago, when the commission chairman informed an individual going to speak during the public portion from the Beaver Dam Lake Association, and you informed them that there was going to be a public hearing next week. Today. So I was aware that there was going to be an issue. So at that point, I commenced the staff, Mr. Shepard, my client, and we proceeded to look further into the issues of drainage. So at that point, and they are on the website, you have a map of the the watershed for Beaver Dam Lake. You have the state highway map showing the drainage, and you have the page highlighting section 7.4.1 from the deep manual, which Alan Shepard will address. I will note that Mr. Shepard also submitted in response to the truck turning radius, a truck turning radius, which is also on the website, and I believe, Alan can correct me if I'm wrong, that shows a walkway. In addition, that shows a sidewalk in response to Commissioner Parkins' comment. I will note that since that time, we were sent the numerous emails, and we have also begun working on further responses concerning the drainage, concerning the water, and we assume that the Beaver Dam Lake Association has referenced that they have an engineer, so we're waiting for a report from an engineer who would assess the drainage that exists. Most of the matter is public record. And obviously, if someone's going to present the fact that there are numerous spills, that is easily obtained from the deep. In addition to that, it is our intention to address at some point the on-site measures that are required with respect to gas stations. And while you are not allowed to wash away spills, you have to dry, you have to absorb them up using a dry method. Obviously, one cannot stop the rain. To quote Creedence Clearwater Revival, who stopped the rain? Nobody. And so you do have to have appropriate measures, which Alan Shepard would talk about. As a result of the emails and the studies, we have submitted another exhibit, which obviously didn't make it onto the website. Based on everything, I am making the assumption, Madam Chairman, that this public hearing has to be continued, so that, for the benefit of both, the benefit of the Dam Association and for the benefit of us replying, because there are replies that aren't on the website. I just wanted to comment that and we hope to be able to even investigate further. In our investigation, it is our understanding that there are 2 or 3, which I'm probably going to mischaracterize them, sediment ponds or filtration ponds that are along, that catch water that comes down towards Beaver Dam Lake. And they address it coming from different angles. One of the shocking things to me is in the exhibit that we presented. And again, it'll be on the website, but certainly if anybody from the Beaver Dam Association wishes the documents, I have no problem emailing them to him. I would prefer, I don't mind sending out blast emails, but I would prefer a single contact point on their point, and we can send them whatever we have. But as you know, the Google Earth photo that we submitted with notes shows 9. Now, this isn't all of them. 9 completely regular, no sumps, no hoods, 9 catch basins in direct line, almost, from our property down to Beaver Dam Lake on Bridgeport Avenue, Route 8 northbound, and Route 8 southbound. These 9 catch basins catching road oils, road salt, road gasoline, hydrocarbons that are emitted by cars that run, which is known to happen, are completely untreated. However, when it then rolls out of those catch basins, and it is through that state drainage system that the water from Bridgeport Avenue also goes, which would connect to our site, and I leave that up to Alan to talk about. Then is our understanding, and we are attempting to more further verify. It goes into what, for lack of a better word, I'll call a filtration pond. Then through that filtration pond, it then filtrates to the lake. Now, we have had a relatively short time. We have reviewed the email. We've had a relatively short time to really address this. We've tried to do it as fast as we can. I will note also that we were contacted by a representative of Aquarian, because Aquarian was given notice as a property owner. And Aquarian was satisfied with how we were addressing the issues. Obviously, they have Trap Falls Reservoir. And frankly, it wasn't until today, I'm going to be honest, so my conversation with Mr. Shepherd and comments were made by some of the individuals, it wasn't until today that I realized that Trap Falls also flows down that way, flows down that way in the watershed. So I'll leave that up to Alan. But we would expect the association to produce some empirical evidence to support their conclusory statements. I mean, one of the things, yes, there are gas stations, close proximity, there are a lot of costs. You heard that 20,000 people come into Shelton to use the office to generate your taxes. There are alarms, so there should be plenty of documentation to support their position. One of the things you have, for instance, is you have a gas station that's existed for years and years on Old Stratford Road. There's almost a buddy Farmville River. And I'm sure that if they had a problem, if there were problems that existed, I'm sure there's documentation for it. With that, I am going to have to assume that the commission saw or was provided with Ms. Magner's letter. I was sent it within a couple days after the first public hearing. So I leave it up to the commission. If you haven't been provided with it, it's not on the website, I can defer my responses to her letter until the next hearing.
I think that would be a good approach. We'll direct staff to make sure that those two particular documents that you referred to from Ms. Magner and Mr. McCoy are sent to the commission and...
Okay, I mean, if the commission doesn't have it, I don't want, like, for instance, Mr. Yanis may very well be on the phone, because he did a response, a two-page response, which we sent in last Friday, dated June 12th, concerning, the questions were concerning the Huntington Street driveway. Okay, so, because they're not on the website, because maybe the commission wasn't provided with them, we will defer on those two. We don't want to ignore them. We did respond.
That's fine, Attorney Thomas. That's fine to do,
Okay.
defer.
With respect to, the bus stop issue, both, I traveled up Bridgeport Avenue two ways. One of them, I traveled up Bridgeport Avenue on Google Street View, and I also traveled up Bridgeport Avenue via a vehicle, my own vehicle. There are, on the other side of the road, shall we say, on the northbound lane, there are two bus stops. One is exactly opposite the residence inn. And, there's bus stops on both sides of the street, northbound and southbound. There is then a second bus stop on the southbound side, which is past Glen Yankee site in the vicinity of the office building. And then a third southbound at the daycare driveway. And there is another one opposite in the northbound lane, the daycare driveway, and the northbound side. So there is only two on the northbound side. There is three on the southbound side. The one that's on the two that are on the northbound side are quite proximate to the light. You know, closer to the light. And then there was the one which, Alan, can, address. And, Alan can talk to you because I believe that that's involved in the truck turning radius, so I'll have him address that. I just want to generically comment with respect to the issue, which is of zoning, and what this zone is. This property is zoned R1. Was somehow zoned R1, this parcel, even though Langenki's predates zone. It's been a commercial florist for all those years. It is bordered by, I believe, 2 PDDs. On one side, high-density residence inn, on the other side, an office building. On the Huntington Street side, it does border a lot.
Could you repeat that, Attorney Thomas, bordering?
On the Huntington Street side,
It's
it
bordering,
borders one lot, as it's shown on our map.
one
that is
lot.
R1.
Okay.
That is R1. But adjacent to that lot, the majority of the northbound boundary is the residence inn, which is a high-density PDD. And it has had a commercial use for a number of years that I can't even tell you, but I think you can look at the letter from Mr. Renford, family member letter, who addressed those issues. I'm going to turn it over to Alan, but I do want to make a point. I appreciate the issues that surround gas stations. For those of you that travel on Route 34 and go by to New Haven and go by Richbrook Country Club and look to your left, you see a big gas station. That was the gas station that my father's family owned. And, in the 60s, late 50s and 60s, I would have paid my have to be there to pump gas. So I am very familiar with the history of what happens, of when there are spills. But before there were automatic valves, or before there were protections. In addition to that, I bought a building in downtown Derby for my office. And I am familiar with the issues of the old tanks. But those are historical, and those are really past history. The state of Connecticut, the Department of Environmental Protection, has stepped in with respect to gas stations to require substantial measures with respect to the most serious issue, which was underground tanks. Secondly, you cannot, avoid people drifting it. And there are many, many more safety measures that try to contain it on site. And those measures are all required for all new gas stations, including good pavement, which catches larger spills, and including what Alan's going to explain to you, how stormwater is addressed. So I believe that the impact is, we believe that the impact is minimal and has been addressed. But we welcome the appropriate exchange. We welcome contrary engineering and environmental evidence to address the issue of this site, not generically. So with that, I will turn it over to Alan Shepard, our engineer, to address the presentation that he has done.
Thank you, Attorney Thomas.
Good morning. For the record, it's Alan Shepard, professional engineer and partner in the firm of Nowakowski, will be John Kane, 415 Howe Avenue, Shelton, Connecticut. Quickly to the comments, and I just want to go over a few things with the drainage. The state water quality manual asks for the 1-inch storage for the first flush. The first flush has been talked about a lot in this state drainage manual. That's where 95% of the pursuits are. be happy to know that Shelton asked for 2 inches of storage, so twice of what the state asked for, and, has for a number of years. So with that, with the gas stations that are modern day gas stations, the groove bridges and the, pumping areas, that's there, it contains skid spills. And we have 8 footed trap type catch basins, that on this property. Each one can contain 200 gallons of fluid. There's at the different exit points of the property. Then we would have pipe storage and recharge into the ground. The recharge volume that we have, the total trapped volume is 8,378 cubic feet.
Mr. Shepherd, are those, statistics on your site plan somewhere?
I have it here in my email, I can submit it, or the galleries are, I don't know if you want to take it in paper or. All right.
We can expect that again for next week.
Okay.
So, and that would be for the 2 inches of rainfall for the purpose of, as you know, what we plan to have here is the, catch basins with the hooded traps going into the galleries and the pipe storage, into recharge galleries, we can solve that stuff there, and the soils are, suitable for that type of system. My point being, that's a lot of volume that, gets stored on site before anything even goes off site. And it's in keeping with the state, guidelines in the water quality manual. The details of that inverse construction will be, of course, on the detailed site plan that we should get. This is just a conceptual plan. But I did want to point out that for the sidewalk, the turning radius little handout that I gave you, does show it easily to the, close to the, bus stop, marker that's in front of the residence end. I did not put the sidewalk in front of the residence end, because I think we'd have to get, that would be above, past our boundary. I don't think the government is opposed to that as long as the town's in agreement with that. But the bus stop is just north to our property, and the sidewalk up to our property is, smart for business too, so we're in agreement with that. And I just want to point out that the, all the town engineer comments, as you said, we're in agreement of, and have no problem complying with. Is there specific questions on the drainage, or is it?
Mr. Shepherd, on the truck radius diagram, I don't think I've ever seen something identified as such before, but what is a water gate?
Oh, that's a turnoff valve, it's a,
Oh,
it's a turnoff valve.
got it, thank you.
I don't have the new documents on my laptop, but the sidewalk, is it off the road a little bit, is there?
Yeah, I put it off the road a little bit, and then it would go on the driveway up through to the building. So I figured that there's a little grass there, and there's some, growth and vegetation that would be in the vegetation. And then, into the property. And like I said, in front of the residence end, we'd have to talk about that, but I think if the residents in wouldn't have a problem with it, and we wouldn't have a problem with it, extend it right to where the people get dropped off.
Mr. Shepherd, that particular sidewalk curves around into the parking lot where the pumps are and goes past, it seems to terminate as it gets
In front of
to
the
the area.
building, yeah,
is there some reason why I couldn't continue all the way down?
Oh, good, I just,
Okay.
we think of it.
Madam Chair, I have a question.
Go right ahead, Mr. Ramsey.
Alan, just to clarify, you cannot pinpoint the gas lean tanks until you get a tenant for that, is that true?
That's right, the applicant is talking to a couple different companies, they have different opinions where to go, with their tanks. I would like it on the southerly end, but some people, indicated you want it on the northerly end. Either event, it will be in the front of the building.
So you're saying it would be behind the gas pump area and before the parking spaces?
Yes, it would be in the back of the building, and, for that cause, as we talked about in our, meetings before, we don't want the trucks going in the back of the building, we want them to come in front of the building and do their stuff, and I purposely made it so it's awkward for the back of the property for truck traffic. So, it was basically for, the tanker trucks, if you will, to come around in the front.
Madam Chair, I have a question.
Sure, Commissioner Kelly, could you just, hold on for a minute?
And what's the capacity of the tanks? Or is it for different, different gas stations would have different tanks, or what?
What's that?
Well, how many tanks and what's the capacity of the tanks?
I would have to check on that. Let me check on that before I say it for the record.
Okay, Mr. Shepherd, on that particular truck radius, you've got outlines of trucks in red, green, and blue. Is there some difference as to why?
No, just to show the different, stages along the route.
Okay.
Sometimes the lines get a little blurred, but they overlap.
Any other commissioners, any staff have any comments, questions, or concerns for Mr. Shepherd?
Yeah, I just, could there be a cut through between the residence inn and the store that would be farther up off
Elaine, ask Mike closer.
start off Route 8, I don't know what the topography is there, but between, say, the convenience store and the residence inn, farther away from
A
Richmond
walkway?
Avenue.
A walkway, not
Yeah.
driveway, right?
Yeah, a walkway, like between,
There's a couple of issues with respect, even to the sidewalk, with respect to the sidewalk, you're dealing with if you remember, this part of Bridgeport Avenue is not a state highway, it's a city highway. When you get to a state highway, the city of Shelton has an ordinance concerning the maintenance of sidewalks. So if we put a sidewalk in front of, residents in, it becomes their obligation to maintain it, creates a liability issue. That's not to say it's not resolvable. As far as an interconnection, we will certainly look into it. I'm just going from memory, I'm not sure. I was under the impression the buildings were tight. In fact, I was gonna look at Google Earth, and see if the buildings are tight, and I was always under the impression Residence Inn went up slightly, you know what I mean, with the driveway. So I'm not sure what is over there. Certainly, client would mind it to have the people be able to come down, because it would be a tremendous convenience to the people in the Residence Inn, so we would look at that. We will look into that, if possible, obviously pitches that down. But the sidewalk connection, and that's one of the pitches to the Residence Inn people, will still provide a tremendous convenience. The purpose of the sidewalk ended where it ends there, is the one thing that would be needed on the final plans would be a crosswalk, to go over to the store. If the sidewalk needed to be continued farther in the back, so people could go to the offices or open floor, certainly that can be considered, we have room to go farther back. We don't want to go too far back because there's trees that we can't, that we don't want to take down. With respect to Commissioner Kelly's comment, we'd be glad, again, as soon as we can, to present tank information. We have it up to this point. There is a substantial amount of information concerning concerning the modern day tanks, double walls, vapor capture, all the requirements, the fact that the tanks are buried in concrete coffins, for lack of a better word, and all of those to protect spill. Because those were the most dangerous problems, is the spills in tanks in the old days, not anymore. Yeah. And there are a lot of protections, but we will provide that information. Some of it can easily be provided documentary. I think a lot of it's on the website of the Connecticut team. So we will address that issue. But we are going to have to open up a conversation with the residents and people with respect to extending the sidewalk, which we think is a very good idea, very beneficial.
Okay, Commissioner Kelly, you have a question?
I just have one more question. Truck turnaround, I assume that's for the tankers, correct? Okay. This is the only way they could do it. They will not be allowed to come in through Huntington Road.
Correct. And that's correct.
Okay.
Any other commissioners here in the auditorium or remotely?
I do want to make a point on that. We can certainly tell them that's the way you're going to go in.
I understand that.
Well, I have no idea who the tenant's going to be at this point. There is a gas station in Huntington Center, and I think you had an application concerning the canopy and the sign last week. It's a tanker truck, and I have no idea how, who has contracts with whom. But if a tanker truck were making a delivery here, and then going down to Huntington Center to make a delivery, we would still be telling him, you have to go back out to Bridgeport Avenue, go to the light, and hang a right. Short of threatening someone with incarceration, if the guy decided to go out the back way, we would certainly enforce it with signage and requests. But I do want to point out that there is a gas station way down in Huntington Center, but I have no idea if they would be the same delivery people.
Well, one of the reasons I was asking is because besides the gas station or the use of gas, you also have a truck stop, basically, and you'll have deliveries of products there too.
Yes.
So I don't know what kind of trucks would go in there to deliver this.
Most of the modern, what I say, convenience stores, I've done I've done 3 of them for 2 different brands. Okay. The brand that is being proposed here is a 4,000 plus square foot building. The reason it is that large, it is modeled after a specific model that has about 2,200 square feet of patronage. The rest of it is storage. And what they have done, they have found, is rather than have their business interrupted, because their main business is the sale of gasoline. So rather than have it interrupted by a constant flow of delivery trucks for product inside, they have now increased their storage substantially. I refer to it affectionately as the Walmart system, where Walmart has enormous amounts of warehousing in the back of their stores so that they limit the amount of truck traffic, as opposed to a supermarket in which the truck traffic is quite often. So the modern day business model for these things is to reduce that kind of traffic. Reduce, frankly, in one presentation, the comment was made that the only thing other than a box truck that ever comes in is the guy that delivers the Coke. It's the only one that comes in anything other than a box truck. But their whole point is to store more of it inside.
And I just would like to point out to you now, Shepard, came back in the building, we have the box truck, spot for deliveries. So that would be for an SU-30 type of truck, not a tanker truck.
What's an SU-30 truck?
It's a smaller box truck, a delivery truck.
Okay.
So the tanker trucks obviously are larger.
Any other commissioners here or remotely have any comments, questions, or concerns?
Madam Chair.
Madam Harkins?
Okay, let's go with Commissioner Usula, or is that Commissioner Lasko?
It's Commissioner Lascos.
Go right ahead.
In lieu of the public comment on water runoff, would it be possible to add a swale/water retention to that front grass area on Bridgeport Avenue that would then drain, filtered if possible, into the catch basin?
Okay, Commissioner Shepherd's going to address that, and then we'll go on to Commissioner Parkins.
I could do that in the back of the property where we have the green space. And then in the front area, what I was thinking is to have that as pipe storage, underneath the parking lot area, because, the space in front of the property is owned by the city, and they may not want to swale there. So, the way I would handle that is the pipe storage in the front. And I could do a rain garden in the back.
How does that pipe storage work?
Oh, it goes into the, hooded trap catch basins.
Get close to the mic.
Oh, yes, sorry, wrong mic. So it goes to the hooded trap catch basins. And then it would go into a, tight joint pipe that would drain into the recharge galleries. So, you'd have ability to contain it, but then it would also drain through the ground.
So this is a system where the water is captured and then it slowly, or at some point, goes
Recharge
down.
through the ground, right.
Okay. All right, Commissioner Parkins, you had a question?
I do. Thank you for Attorney Thomas for pointing out that the sidewalk was on that drawing. I had looked at that drawing, but I just guess I missed the sidewalk due to all the pretty colors on the drawing. I'm glad to see that the sidewalk could be put in there. It was interesting. I did not realize that the state does not control the right-of-way up on that part of Bridgeport Avenue. So might not necessarily for this application, but be something to consider, because also based on what else may go into that center, if it is approved, may also attract the folks from the Avalon rentals a little further down the road. So safety is certainly paramount on that busy road. Also, I do have concerns about the cut-through, not a cut-through, but the drive-through to the back of Huntington Road from Bridgeport Avenue. I know there's some argument about that people won't use it as a cut-through, but I tend to disagree, because you would just be amazed at the lack of patience that people have when there's 3 cars in front of them. So is there any consideration to possibly put some sort of a speed bump or something to slow traffic coming in, especially considering there's that little picnic pavilion in the back of the building? If people are purchasing something from across the way or have gone to Langanke's, I'm just really concerned about pedestrian traffic within that center and people cutting through with vehicles.
Madam Chairman, can I respond?
Absolutely, Attorney Thomas.
Yes, we did insert into the site plan a stop sign, that, is opposite the office building before you enter the rear parking lot. Certainly, we can consider, one of the, what I call the more modern, speed bumps, which incorporate a speed bump and a crosswalk into one. I was involved in a project where we did these, where you had, to give you an example, we had crossings for customers similar to what happens in front of Big Y. And in front of Big Y, you have the crosswalks, and you have the signs. In this other project, they have a wide sloping, which makes it a lot easier for the plow trucks, rather than the sharp speed bumps. They are a little bit wider, and they incorporate a crosswalk at the top. Certainly, I'll have a discussion with the client, because anytime you do something like that, we do want to analyze the cost of it, that's something we will put in our thing to respond to the next time. And I want to make it clear, we were prepared to respond further, but I think we have to tie our responses into what's on the website.
Absolutely. So on your site plans, the two areas that are noted stop bar is the location of a combination crosswalk and
Well, no, right now they're just a stop sign.
stop sign.
Stop bar. We will look into whether or not we can incorporate at that point the type of speed bump that's more modern. The small, high speed bumps are a disaster for snowplowing. However, there are speed bumps that are more suitable to snowplowing.
Okay. Madam Chair?
That's right. Okay, Commissioner Kelly, you have a comment?
Yeah, as long as Commissioner Perkins brought up the flow of traffic. On Bridgeport Avenue, we have a double entrance and exit. What stops a car or anyone from coming out and going across Bridgeport Avenue to head down Shelf?
I don't think anything does. I think it's two-way. I know it's addressed in the traffic report, and I'm gonna have to talk to the last triangular thing on your desk and ask if Craig Yanis is on the phone.
Yes.
I'm here.
Right, Craig, did you hear the question from Commissioner Kelly?
Yes, sir.
Okay, do you want to address it at all?
One more question, you can address to both of them. Also, in the back, it would be the same question I would have. If you come out on the Huntington Road, you can go across and go towards Stratford. Is there any way that we could stop that flow that way, or, both ways, really? In other words, from crossing the main road.
Right. I think, I'm gonna leave that to the traffic engineer. I don't know whether you can address it right now, Craig, or we want to just take it
Well,
on the advisement.
it could be very easy with directional arrows, too, coming out of the.
You're restricting the time.
Do you want to leave that for next
Yeah.
time or address it now?
Yeah, let's, take that under
We'll take that under
consideration.
advisement.
Yeah, okay. So you're asking, can we stop cars from taking a left-hand turn, crossing oncoming traffic? Okay. There was somebody else remotely that spoke up, am I mistaken? Okay, Mr. Panico, do you have any comments, questions, or concerns?
Madam Chairman, as you know, we did work with the applicant a lot in getting to the point where we had a proposal to put at the public hearing. Since that time, and having listened to some of the concerns by commissioners, especially with regard to cut through and traffic, I was wondering if the applicant could explore re-examine the geometry at the Huntington Street side, perhaps bringing that entrance in perpendicular to Huntington Street and creating a 90-degree turn, if you will, and provide stop signs at that point together with some sort of a speed berm, and as a step in discouraging the cut-through traffic. It also would discourage trucks and other commercial vehicles from coming in from the Huntington Street side, because that turn might make it a little more awkward for them. I wonder if the applicant perhaps could explore that a little bit.
We would certainly be happy to explore it. Obviously, while we cannot discuss this with commission members, we can certainly clarify it with staff. So possibly I can set up a situation with Mr. Rossetti, Alan, Craig, and Mr. Panico to understand better exactly what's going on. In Mr. Gaddis's responses concerning the traffic exiting onto Huntington Street, he does, and in his comments, which we will reserve for the next meeting, he talks about sightline and steps that can be taken with respect to sightline. But as often happens, when you have a conflict between maintaining something historical and making it green, have a conflict with, the sightlines are acceptable, they're okay. If you want to improve them, there are very large trees that have to come down. And these are in the right of way, they're not on property, not on our property. So we will reserve that comment, and we will, once we understand specifically what Mr. Panico wants to present, and we'll be able to do it at the next meeting.
All right, thank you, Attorney Thomas. All right, final call for any commissioners here in the auditorium or those participating remotely, including Mr. Panico, for any comments, questions, or concerns.
No other than what I just mentioned at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Panico. And Commissioner Motto, you were speaking up?
In regards to a rain garden, I just would, at some point, want to hear very specific information about that. My general understanding is that that would be something that would be planted with, native plants, small shrubbery kind of plants, perennial type of plants. But, the reality is that any kind of disturbed land is gonna fill in with non-native invasives unless that, area is aggressively maintained. Just ad infinitum, forever. So,
And we'll address that. I believe that is also why as Shepard explained, the recharge galleries. In other words, you actually try to recharge. Again, you don't go into this assuming that nothing's going to, the protections are enormous, and that's why you have these specific kinds of catch basins. One thing I learned in researching this is you cannot clean up spills using a hose. So if there's a spill, if there is a situation where somebody does pull away, and there's a spill that's larger before the automatic shutoff takes in place, you can't go out there with a hose and wash it out. You don't. You have to use some sort of dry thing and then sweep it up. That doesn't mean things won't get into the catch basins, and that's why these have to be catch basins. We will go into the detail of how they operate and how the recharge galleries operate at the next meeting. So we'll try to address those issues. And the other thing we need to address, having been brought up, is we honestly need to get more information about the full fledged of drainage that goes down towards Beaver Dam Lake, including through what we were told are these filtration ponds. But a lot of that, again, you look at the last exhibit that I submitted, which will hopefully go up on the website soon, it shows you the amount of road drainage that goes down that way.
Very good, thank you, Attorney Thomas.
Okay.
Okay, is there a motion to continue the public hearing?
I'll make a motion.
There's a motion to continue the public hearing. Commissioner Kelly, is there a second?
Commissioner
Second.
Ticky, I'll second.
Okay, Commissioner Ticky, you will be a second on that. Do a roll call vote on the motion to continue the public hearing, made by Commissioner Kelly and seconded by Commissioner Ticky. Commissioner Parkins?
Aye.
Commissioner Kelly?
Aye.
Commissioner Lasco?
Aye.
Commissioner Motto?
Aye.
Commissioner Ticky?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. All right, our discussion about this particular application will be held in an upcoming Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. We will have, it will be scheduled where additional information will be submitted. The public hearing is kept open, and a reminder that there's no discussion by the commissioners on this particular application as it is still open. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion to adjourn.
There's a motion to adjourn from Commissioner Motto. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Commissioner Kelly. All right, so a vote on today's adjournment. Commissioner Kelly?
Aye.
Commissioner Motto? Commissioner Ticky?
Aye.
Commissioner Parkins?
Aye.
Commissioner Lasco?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. The motion to pass, and adjourned is passed 6-0. We're adjourned as of 11:42. Thank you, everyone.